Good afternoon and welcome. Good afternoon and welcome. I am adjusting and focusing or trying to. All right. Hello, everyone. How are you on this beautiful Saturday? Warm, steamy, hot Saturday. Thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to wait and see if I have a few people. I'll give everybody a couple of seconds because I am right on time. As a matter of fact, I'm a couple of minutes late. I see one viewer has joined in, and thank you for joining. Hi, it's been a while. It is so exciting to be back this summer in July of 2022. It's a blessing. I really must say it's a blessing to be here, to be alive, to be well, breathing, walking, talking, and enjoying all of them, all of everything that the world has to offer, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. It doesn't take my joy, because anytime I wake up in the morning, when I wake up in the morning and I realize that I was on Jehovah God's wake up list, it's a good morning for me. Whether I'm in pain or I'm a little sleepy or whatever else is going on, it really doesn't matter, because I know I woke up with a purpose, because he gave me another day to do something that he needs for me to do. All right, I'm checking in. Good afternoon, Shawnee. Thank you for joining. Good afternoon, Dora. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining me again. This is the third. Thank you to the returning people who have been with me for the 3 years that I've done. This is the third year. And for the new people who are joining, thank you for joining. If you're joining now or you have an opportunity to look at it later, please share. The biggest thing is to get the word out about recovery, about people suffering in silence, and letting them know that they don't have to suffer in silence. This is something that's workable and doable, and I, Brigette Bass, am living proof of that. So welcome again. I started this 2 years ago in the midst of the pandemic in 2019. I had only been in recovery, or I had been in recovery for a couple of years then. And it was a struggle to adjust to not going to meetings in person and not being able to interact with people face to face that were walking the same journey that I was walking. And then I started to notice how the prices of liquor was going up, and how the number of people in recovery was starting to drop a little bit, and people were struggling and trying to find ways to adjust to the new life that we were dealing with, and in the midst of that, recovery as well. So I decided to try to do something a little different. I thought out the box, and I came up with, or I was blessed with, the idea of Sober Saturday. And that's when I first started my journey, Sobriety, Sober Saturday. And so it's been 3 years. I started in July, and I did 2019, 2020, I think 2020, 2021. And now this is 2022. So I'm excited. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so happy to see you. Hi, thank you, Sherry, for joining, and welcome. Please share this with your family, your friends. Share it on your page if you could, or directly share it with people that you know of. It's important. Thank you. It's important that we recognize that people are suffering in silence every day. I can't say that enough. I was one of them. You never would have been able to look at me and know that I was an alcoholic. You never would. You just would have thought I was a person that liked to party and had a good time and enjoyed life. And all of those things were true, but the underlying issue was I was an alcoholic. I was a functioning alcoholic that got up and went to work, 2 degrees, teacher of the year, parent, active in my son's life, etc., etc. But I was still an alcoholic. And that doesn't mean, and I suffered. I was going through things, but if you would look at me, you would never know it. So looks can be deceiving, because I'm learning through my journey from sobriety into recovery that people are suffering from hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And it's not always alcoholism. It's a lot of other things that we deal with on a daily basis that sometimes can have such a hold on us in our minds until it becomes very difficult for us to function in the way that we were designed to function originally by our master. So now let me get into the thing. I'm glad everyone joined me. Please, everything that I say is my personal experience, my opinion, my thoughts, and my comments. By no means am I a specialist or a doctor or anything like that. I am a certified life coach, but at the same time, I speak from my experiences and the things that I've endured and still living to tell about it. So that's my disclaimer. Let me reintroduce myself. I am the recovery coach, Brigette. I am no longer the sobriety coach, Brigette Bass. As I am growing, so is my journey. And I'm always going to be the foundation of sobriety, will always be set as long as I continue to put the work in. Let me say that, because it's just not like you pour it like you pour in concrete and it sets and it lasts forever. I have to put the work in. It's a daily reprieve that I enjoy. I don't look at it as a task, because my sobriety, which has grown into recovery, gives me a plethora of things that I enjoy. Life on life terms. No matter what life brings me, I know it's going to be okay, because I have my Heavenly Father, Jehovah God, and I'm in recovery. And I have a community of people around me that support me and pour into me, and I pour into them. We hold each other spiritually accountable for our recovery, and it's just a beautiful thing. But life is still life, and things still happen. That doesn't mean that I don't get frustrated. It doesn't mean that I don't get angry. It doesn't mean that I don't get tired. It just means that now I have a toolbox that are full of resources that I can use, and I have daily routines that I have set in place that work. The saying that we have is, it works if you work it, and you're worth it. So I know now that I'm worth it, and I enjoy putting in the work. It's a lifestyle for me. So as I began to grow, I am no longer the person that I was in 2019. I'm not even the person I was in 2020 when I started Sober Saturday, because I started it because I suffered with alcoholism. I started it from my point of view, Brigette Bass, being someone in the alcoholic community, dealing with that. But now that I have walked this journey long enough to understand that it's more than just the alcoholism. Alcohol wasn't the problem for me. It was the solution to my problems. So I'm reintroducing myself as the recovery coach, Brigette. I am no longer just focusing on alcoholism. It's bigger than that. It was even bigger than that for me. Alcoholism, as I said, was not the problem. It was the solution to my problems. But my problems were my hurts, my hang-ups that turned into the habit of alcoholism. So now that I'm further along in my journey, I understand that it is not just about the alcoholic community. It's a bigger stage. It's a bigger platform. It's a larger group of people out here who are suffering in silence. And it is my service, my opportunity to share my story, my adventures, my good, my bad, my ugly, with everyone so that they can see that it's workable. It's doable. Because when you're struggling, sometimes you feel trapped as if that's the only thing you can do. It ain't nothing better than this. I felt like a drink was the everything. I drank when I was happy. I drank when I was sad. I drank when I was celebrating. I was tired. I was angry. It was a long week. I was always grabbing a drink. And I never even knew that that's what I was using the alcohol for. It never dawned on me until later in my recovery that alcohol was my everything. Because for one thing, society makes it seem so glorious and wonderful. And it's okay. And it's all right for those people who are not alcoholics, for those people who don't suffer with an addiction. But for those of us who do, it's not all glory and fireworks and all the excitement that everything shows it to be. So as I've growing through this journey, I've noticed or seen the change in myself, and I've went from the foundation of sobriety into the portion of recovery. So today's topic, so everything has changed. I've went from Bridget Bass, the recovery coach, to the recovery coach Brigette. I'm no longer doing Sober Saturdays. It is now titled The Road to Recovery. And I've been sending out the images and sharing them with my family and friends and on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's the road to recovery because I want everybody, I want to drag and pull as many people with me, my friends, my family, strangers, church members, neighbors, co-workers, anybody that I can, that the Lord will allow me to testify to or speak to or share my story with, and it helps them in some shape, form, or fashion. I want to bring them on this recovery journey with me because it's a beautiful thing. Now, it is hard work. Don't get it twisted or, misunderstand. But the work that I put in for my recovery, oh man, there is no comparison to the work I used to put in to try to figure out how I was going to get a bottle of Grand Marnier or how I was going to get some drinks for the club that night or what I was going to wear and all that kind of stuff. I put energy into that too. I had to make sure that I was drop dead gorgeous every time I stepped out because I didn't want to never be seen in the same thing. I'm Bridget Bass. It's all about me. As a friend of mine always says, she calls her name, and I picked it up from her, the Bridget Bass Show. I'm all that in a bag of chips because my disease had me in a place where it was the most important thing to me, going out and partying and hanging out. So the same energy that I put into that, because I don't care where a party was. If I had to catch a flight, I found the money. If I was driving to a trail ride or whatever, I found a way. I don't even know half the time where I was going or how I got back. I just know that I found a way to get there. You understand what I'm saying? So the same energy that I used to put into that, I unlearned all of those old behaviors, and now I put it into my recovery. Oh, that almost just brings tears to my eyes to say that. I put it in my recovery. I live a life that is pleasing to Jehovah God. Oh, I put forth great effort. Of course, I fall short because I'm still human. But anytime that I can put effort into something that's pleasing Jehovah, then I know I'm good. I know I'm where I'm supposed to be and I'm doing what I need to be doing. So I have to say and give a shout out to Dora Stripling. She is with Exploring with Dora, and she did an amazing job. Hugs and kisses. I love you, my sister. She did a beautiful job in helping me creating, designing, putting most of the work in, and teaching me how to rebrand and what's important about it and what it should look like and how I need to think 5 steps ahead for other adventures that I'm moving towards. So I just wanted to give Exploring with Dora her shout out because she did a beautiful job. Everything that you see is some of her work. My logo and my brand comes from Percy Bryant III. He's a Prairie View alumni, and he did those things for me. Okay. I want to read something to you, if I can find it. On second thought, I'm going to read something that I wrote a couple of months back in March. 60 times around the sun and 55 months of sobriety, which is the prerequisite to recovery. My recovery is a spiritual journey of making mistakes, learning lessons, and finding freedom from life's hurts, hang-ups, and habits. When I first said I wanted to change from sobriety to recovery coach, I knew when I was in sobriety that the journey was not temporary. It was a lifetime commitment. And I don't mind putting the work in. I'm grateful that God chose me. I'm excited about that I get to put the work in to see the results so that I can share with everybody else. Because it's just not about Bridget. It's not about Bridget Bass. It's about something much larger than that. So I'm grateful for that. And that was my summary to myself about why I'm doing what I'm doing and the reason, my why. So now I'm going to break it down for you. I will be with you every Saturday in July. We'll have a different topic. This week's topic is sobriety into recovery. I'll start at 2 p.m. We'll talk for about an hour. Please share if you have any questions or comments. You can leave them in the section and I'll get back with you. I'll respond to it. If you need something directly, you can you can send me a message through Facebook and I can respond that way as well. If you watch this at a later date, please post hashtag replay so I could just kind of keep up with and see who's out there watching it with me. So the first thing I want to do is I want to separate and give you some background history from my point of view of what sobriety is versus recovery and what the connection is and what it was for me. So when I looked up the definition for sobriety, it is the state or quality of being sober, not affected by alcohol. So when I became sober, I stopped drinking. Sobriety speaks to the alcoholic in me, and recovery speaks to who Jehovah God designed me to be. So that's a big difference for me. When I started in sobriety, again, I found out through working a 12-step program that alcohol wasn't the problem, it was the solution. And after being sober through that 12-step program, or as I was going through that 12-step program, it started to expose all the root causes of what I'll always describe it as like a warehouse. I had a warehouse full of junk. Toxic traumas as a childhood, resentment from being abandoned, anxiety that I never wanted to deal with because you couldn't drink alcohol and take the pill. So, that was a no-brainer for me. Alcohol won. And it was just a warehouse full of junk that was not serving any purpose except negativity, all in and out of my life for as long as I had been living. Now, that doesn't mean that I wasn't a good person, because basically I think I was a good person. I did some good things, made some successes in my life, but there were many holes in my soul. They were just gushing out. So as I started to work a 12-step program, I was able to identify those areas, okay? They started to open up and kind of like knock the scab off of those areas in my life that had been causing me havoc. And I had been using alcohol as a form of self-medication, guess what? Without even knowing it. It had become such a routine and a habit for me. I didn't even realize I was using alcohol to cover up those holes in my soul, or to plug up those holes in my soul. So after I realized that, and please don't let me put light on sobriety, because it took me some time to walk through this and adjust to it, unlearn the old habits and replace them with new positive spiritual things, learn how to see myself different. Oh my goodness, learn how to forgive myself. It took me a while for all of these things to happen. So it wasn't like I was in sobriety and boom, I jumped over to recovery. No, it's a time process. It's a walking the journey, staying on the path and staying focused for me. And once I started to see all of these things, I had to dig deeper in myself. Thank you, Dora. You're more than welcome. Thank you, Sherry, for joining me. Thank you, Shawnee, for joining me. I just wanted to stop and do a shout out. Thank you, ladies, for being here. I appreciate you. Once I started to recognize what was in my warehouse of junk, then I had to start to dig deeper, because the scab had already been knocked off. And if you've ever had a sore as a kid, or even as an adult, if I burn myself or something, and it gets a scab on it, then it starts to heal. But every time I bump it, rub it up against something, or mess around and do something unintentionally, not paying attention, and knock that scab off, then that pain starts to come back, because it hasn't been healed from the inside out. And that's what my process was. Once I realized you got a whole bunch of stuff up here in this warehouse that you need to work on and get rid of. So once I started, recognized it, accepted it, because it's the process, saying, oh, okay, you need to work on this. This is not cute. It's not pleasing to God. You need to fix it. This is what you've done your whole life. This is what you were accustomed to. Doesn't make it right, because I did it for almost 40 years. You know, so that's a long time. That's like a half of a lifetime. That's my whole life. That's my whole life. I'm 60 now. So for almost 40 of my 60 years, I did a lot of things, not everything, a lot of things wrong. And I had to go back and unlearn that over the last almost 5 years. I had to unlearn that starting back in 2017 when I first came in. I had to go back and, unlearn those things and start to replace them with more positive and spiritual and better things that would help me grow and flourish into what I am today. Excuse me. Okay. Learning to live a life of sobriety is not an easy task. It is not for the faint. I mean, it's something that I've been blessed to start, and I see people who have started it and have been going for years and years and years. And there are some people who started and they fall off, and the Lord blesses them and they come back. And then unfortunately, there are some people who fall off and they don't make it back. But that's the reality of it. They fall off from sobriety. And when you hear the word sobriety, it's mostly and mainly going to always deal with alcoholism. It's going to always talk about or relate to alcoholism. And that's another reason why I wanted to change from sobriety to recovery. Because once I started to dig deep and look at my warehouse and start to accept the things that were holding me hostage as toxic traumas, it no longer was just about my alcoholism. It was about other issues that I had been dealing with or not dealing with. Let me say it correctly, that I had not been dealing with all my life. Abandonment from my mother and my father. I never dealt with that until recently. Anxiety. I told you my joke about anxiety. I wasn't concerned about anxiety when it came to alcohol, because the doctor said, oh no, you can't drink with that medication. I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you for your time. I got my purse and stuff, and I started leaving because I wasn't about to stop drinking just so I could take some medication for anxiety. It'll be okay. You know, that was my mindset. So once I started digging in and pulling out all that stuff, it wasn't an easy task. There was a time when I didn't even really know who I was. I became agitated with learning how to unlearn the past and learn something new, because it didn't look like me no more. I looked the same on the outside to a certain extent, but I didn't know who I was, because everything that I had thought that I was, everything that I thought I liked, everything that I thought I'd like to do, places I'd like to go, when I was drinking, being sober is totally opposite. Like totally opposite. And I didn't know what that looked like because I had drank for so long. I didn't know anything else. So for me to have to learn something new was like, oh my God, what's going on? Where's Brigette? I need the old Brigette back. But I'm grateful that I had people who poured into me, and the Spirit of Jehovah God stayed with me and walked me through the process. And I never felt like, or I never acted on my feelings. Because there was sometimes when I was like, I don't know if I'm sober. Yeah, okay. I'm going to stick with it. But I'm grateful that I was able to withstand the pressure and stay the course of it, because even now, I'm still on a journey. It's going to be a lifetime. I won't stop this journey until the Lord brings me home, until I close my eyes. And that's okay, because it is well worth it. Because I heard someone, and I picked it up from them, my best day as an alcoholic is not as good as my worst day being in recovery. There's no comparison. Thank you, Gabby, for joining in. I'm so happy you were able to join me or us this afternoon. Sobriety is not a one-time choice. It's a decision that I make daily. I make it daily. I make a choice. No matter where I'm at, restaurant, hotel, homecoming game, wedding, I make a choice to be sober. I make a choice not to drink. I make a choice to have a Sprite or a mocktail or an alcohol-free pina colada on a cruise. Now, you know that was funny, because I just laughed to myself the whole time I was on my cruise and say, Lord, you sure know when to let me come on a cruise, because I've always wanted to go on one, but I didn't go on one until this past May. And I was laughing. I was like, because baby, if I'd have been on this cruise and they had free alcohol, it'd have been on and popping in not a good way. It would have started off good, but you know, when you think that thing all the way through and look at the end results, it's not pretty. It never was pretty. So even on a cruise, I was able to, like, it in the casino, it doesn't bother me. That is a thing of my past that I don't have to be afraid of. I do have to acknowledge it, and I have to stay close to Jehovah God, because he gives me the strength to push me forward and not let me relapse back and go back into things that are not healthy for me. So I enjoy that. The joy of sobriety is much more than the pain I went through to get here. Sobriety, the act of not drinking, to stop drinking, to no longer drink. And some of the synonyms I had for the word sobriety are things that I like to remember, like sober-minded, serious, sensible. That's what sobriety is to me. You don't get over an addiction by stop using. You recover, or I am recovering by creating a new life according to biblical principles. Biblical principles, not Bridget's principles, not the world's principles, but biblical principles. And I will always give credit where credit is due. Jehovah God is the reason why I don't drink. Jehovah God is the reason why I changed my whole life and turned it around. Jehovah God and his word is the reason why I'm in recovery today, and I can stand firmly, proudly, and boldly and not be ashamed of the life that I once lived, because he has delivered me from that, cleaned me up, made me white as snow, and now I'm on a whole different pathway, and that's all because of him. And when I say recovery, I'm not just talking, see, because when I switched from sobriety to recovery, it went from alcoholism to all the other things I was dealing with. My hurts and my hang-ups, perfectionism, anxiety, abandonment, eating wrongly when I'm not supposed to, and I know I'm taking medication as a diabetic, but every time you look up, I want some ice cream or some chocolate candy or some Tiff treats, you know, some lemon ice cream, because those are things I love. Those are my comfort things. People are suffering with hurt from divorce, dealing with grief. Grief does not have an expiration date. I still grieve the loss of my mother. There are times when I still, or used to, I haven't in a long time, grieve the loss of drinking. No longer drinking anymore. I used to grieve being out in them streets and them clubs and hanging out and doing this, that, and the other. Gambling. Sex. Ding, 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 ding. There are so many addictions and hang-ups and hurts that we deal with on a daily basis, and we just become, or I just became accustomed to it. Like it was the normal thing. Let me find a quick fix. Let me find a way that I can deal with the things that I'm dealing with. Yes, Dora, it's the mindset shift for me. Yes, it is. It's also for me as well. Thank you, ladies, for joining. Please share. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. I mean, I love to hear from you. It's, you know, I'm the one facilitating, but I take questions and comments as well, because this is a learning process for me. I don't know it all, but I'm here to share what I do know and to be of service through helping other people the best that I possibly can. And the way that I can do that is with you sharing comments. Something happened with my internet. Now it says it's restored. Thank you, Miss Jacobs. I'm glad to see them beautiful smile. Okay, so that was basically everything for me for recovery. I'm sorry, for sobriety. About 2020, I realized that, okay, Bass, you got some stuff you need to work on. Now, you sober now. You done stopped drinking. You no longer drink. You don't worry about drinking. You don't think about drinking. You go about your life. You know, you're having a great time. You enjoying life. But you still have some holes in your soul. You still have some residual effects from the toxic traumas and all of the things that you're going through or that you have went through. And you need to get you some more help. You need to dig a little deeper and find something that's going to restore you. And that's how I got into recovery, or that's when I made the switch into recovery, because recovery can be considered as long-term sobriety. Sobriety was, for me, I stopped drinking, but in order for me to have, hi Gina, thanks for joining, welcome, please share, leave any comments. But for me to have long-term sobriety, is when it switched into recovery, because now I'm putting in the work to dig a little deeper. I'm going into a different area, a more severe area. I just don't want to accept what the problem is. I don't just want to talk about what the problem is. I want a lifetime fix for the problem. And I can only get that from Jehovah God. So I went from a program, which was wonderful, a 12-step program, into a ministry of what recovery is and what it looks like. So, definition for recovery. Return to and or gain a normal state of spiritual health, mind, and strength that was lost. That's where I'm at. I want to regain and maintain and go back to, or be given an even better state of life than what I had before I started in the journey or the life of alcoholism, because that's ended. In the life of alcoholism, I want the life back that God, Jehovah God, designed and created me for. So that's what I'm working towards through recovery. My recovery is contingent on my relationship with Jehovah God. Man. So it was easy for me to transition from Sober Saturday to the road to recovery. It was easy for me to transition from Brigette Bass, sobriety coach, to the recovery coach, Brigette. That's why you see things looking different, and this is how they will look. And there may be another change in the future. I don't know what Jehovah has for me, but I do know as I grow and evolve, so does my journey, so does my voice, because my voice and what I'm saying now is totally different. It's an addition to what I used to say. All right, let me share some more things with you about how I feel about recovery. There is no recovery if sobriety isn't present. I can't be in recovery if I'm not constantly staying sober. They're not opposites. They go together. It's, to me, sobriety is the prerequisite of recovery. I have to be sober before I can start recovery, because now I'm putting in that extra work. The not drinking is the easy part of sobriety. But when I started sitting with my feelings and my actions and the reasons why I drank, the real challenges started. When I started digging into that sore and scooping out all that rawness that brought with it much pain and discomfort and uneasiness and uncomfortableness, then I started the recovery process. And I've learned how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's okay. Matter of fact, that's a good thing. Again, alcohol wasn't the problem. Alcohol was the solution. Getting to the root of my issues. When we get in recovery, because recovery is not just from alcoholism, recovery is dealing with all the other stuff that caused me to drink, that caused me to be broken, that I never dealt with. I thought I dealt with it now. To be honest with you, I thought I had folded it up, packed it up, put it up real nice and neat, and everything was great. But in reality, it was great on the outside of what you were seeing, but the inside, as I used to hear my students say, it was toe up from the flow up. It wasn't as pretty. And now I'm having an opportunity, or I get the opportunity. Jehovah God is giving me the opportunity to rebuild myself and restore myself through him, because it's not something I can do on my own. It's only through him. Recovery isn't a hobby. It has become my lifestyle. I'm so grateful that recovery is not like my diet. You know, I started diet on Monday in the AM, and by Monday to PM, I decided I wanted a turtle cheesecake. So I'm grateful that my recovery, I've learned to have recovery as a lifestyle. I put the work in constantly. You know, I'm going to recovery meetings, I'm going to step study, I'm reading, I'm studying, I'm working out questions, I'm working on things. That's my everything. And it's a good thing because it lets me know what I want to put my time into, you know, and that's what's important to me. My recovery began with the realization that filling up the holes in my soul or the emptiness was an inside job. It wasn't something that I could get from alcohol or from a man or being sexual with a man or going here and there or buying up a whole bunch of clothes and all this kind of stuff. It was an inside job. It was something that I had to dig deep in and go to God with, go to Jehovah with, and build on his biblical principles to have a better life so that I could live and do better. I want to read an image that I found that I thought was really powerful. Thank you, Gina. Yes, accepting the responsibility for my junk when I was drinking is imperative because I have to hold myself accountable. I can't be like, well, you know, if my mama hadn't abandoned me and left me and gave me away, then I wouldn't have been drinking. Lies. That has something to do with it, but the fact that I'm drinking and not trying to get, that I was drinking and wasn't trying to get myself any help from what I was dealing with, then that's everything. Because if I don't hold myself accountable, then I let myself off the hook. I can't afford that. My recovery rides on the fact that I stay sober. And the way that I stay sober is that I work through all the junk and the foolishness, and I have to look at it face forward. Like, yeah, Bridget, you did this, that, and the other. You were guilty. But the beautiful thing about it is that let me use my I statements. Once I became a part of Jehovah God's kingdom and asked him to forgive me for my alcoholism and asked him to remove that from me, I no longer wanted that. And then I took it a step further and started working on the reasons why and asking him to show me how to deal with these and how I can use them for his glory. Everything else left. Everything else left. It just, it's there, but it doesn't hold any value. So yes, I hold myself accountable and responsible. Thank you, Dora, LaDora. All right. The image that I wanted to read, I had to think about where I was. When we accept pain as a necessary element of recovery, we grow in the image of our Creator. We release our resentment through forgiveness, our fears through faith, our selfishness through clarity, and our dishonesty through the rigorous pursuit of the truth. Thus are we reborn into the sunlight of the Spirit. I love that quote. It is so powerful to me because it tells me everything that I was and everything that I'm striving to be. I used to have resentment, but now I'm learning how to forgive. I used to walk in fear and still struggle with it from time to time, but I'm also learning how to step out on faith. I used to be selfishness and all about Bridget, and now I have clarity that I'm not the only the only person in the world. It's not just about me. And although I had traits of dishonesty, now I'm working through the truth. So to me, that image is very, very powerful. All right. Anyone have any more comments or questions? Please share. And thank you for joining me today. We have about 10 more minutes, so I'll get ready and wrap up for you. Next Saturday is Road to Recovery, and it is an addiction is an addiction. That's next Saturday. An addiction is an addiction. And I will be talking about, and I'm looking through to make sure I'm giving you the right information, because I am Brigette Bass, and I will tell you one thing and it'll be something else because I'm not looking at it. I'm correct. July the 16th, next Saturday, is an addiction with an addiction. And if there are questions or comments or anything you'd like to share, please post it to my page on Facebook. It is titled Brigette Bass Recovery Coach. I'm on Facebook. Go in and share it or comment, and I'll get back with you. Or there are questions that you'd like to have answered, I can do that as well. Next Saturday on the 16th. Am I correct? Yes. On the 16th, an addiction is an addiction, and that's a powerful one. But today I just wanted to come on and reintroduce myself as the recovery coach, Brigette. The recovery coach, Brigette. And explain to you the difference and why I felt as though I needed to evolve, or to share with you the way my journey was evolving and that things are changing, because my purpose is still the same as it was when I started this in 2020, to share about, but at that time I was focusing basically on sobriety and alcoholism, which is still relevant and still as important to me as everything. But at the same time, I'm learning hurts and hangups. My hurt from abandonment, my hurt from not having the love of my father, the hurts from being sexually molested as a child, and all the things that I dealt with, and the habits of anxiety, perfectionism, all of that stuff still was there and needed to be worked through. And that's what recovery does for me. I'm learning how to build a life that I don't have to escape from. Recovery takes time. It takes work. It takes preparation and a willingness to change. I have a resource page that I'm going to post on my Facebook page and Instagram that gives you the resources. There are many free resources out there. There's Alcoholic Anonymous, and it's a 12-step program. Under Alcoholic Anonymous, you have Al-Anon, which is a program for the family members and friends of an alcoholic. And you have Alateen, which is for teenagers of alcoholics, members in their family. So AA has a plethora of resources that are all free. They have free counseling, they have dates. The Alateens, they have it where they can dial it in, they can listen to it, they can be on Zoom meetings. I mean, I guess the good thing about the pandemic is that it's given us more ways to interact with each other without just being face to face, which there's no replacement for that. I love in person, but in case you can't be, or you're not ready to be person to person or face to face, there are other ways that you can use. Thank you, Dora. She has it posted. Be sure to download the resources here. Right on time. Thank you, my sister. And one of the other programs that I am very familiar with is Celebrate Recovery. And I am an active member of Celebrate Recovery, and I attend the Life Celebrate Recovery off of Fry and Tuckerton. That is my home base, or where I work with, or work through, or I get the privilege and opportunity to participate. There is not enough that I can say about Celebrate Recovery. It's a free program. It's a Jesus Christ 12-step based program that gives you the one and only, the very best solution on using God's word, Jehovah God's word, on how to solve our hurts, hang-ups, and habits. Period. That's the best way I can say it. Everything there that we need is in the word of God, but Celebrate Recovery has designed it. Now, it has taken some steps from other 12-step programs, another 12-step program, and worked it together with the 8 Beatitudes to create a program where people with more than just alcoholism can come and get the help that they need. Hi, Margaret. Thank you for joining me. It is so glad to see your name pop up. Yes, Ladora. I love Ciara. You are more than welcome. Celebrate Recovery is it's a lot. It's a great program. And if you have one in your community, or you can look it up or use the resource list that that Ladora, he posted it too. Thank you, Jehovah. That Ladora just posted. Please do check those out. There's another one called Black Sober Girls, or Sober Black Girls. I'm probably saying it backwards. That's also another one. I'm not really familiar with that one as much as I am Celebrate Recovery, but it's also another resource that you can use. My time is coming to an end, but I am forever grateful to everyone who tuned in. I thank you, Jehovah God, for allowing me to be a voice that I can help the people who are suffering in silence, and that something I say that you've given me, Jehovah, to say can be a blessing over someone else's life. Please, ladies, share this with your friends, family, loved ones, co-workers, whomever. Please share. Leave comments, suggestions, topics that you want to discuss, whatever it is that you want to say, let me know. I'm grateful. I hope to see everyone again on next Saturday at 2 p.m. We'll be dealing with the topic, an addiction is an addiction. So enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. And I'm wearing yellow for a beautiful friend who's being laid to rest today, Mr. Sunshine, Mr. Sunshine. May you rest in peace, love, and light to everyone. Thank you for joining.